My chosen one, stop for a moment. This is urgent. Archangel Michael warns only 1 hour remains. What's approaching can still shift. The 1234 blessing ritual may create a shield. God says this message appears for your protection. Do not dismiss it. Open immediately. You are not hearing this by accident. This is not background noise. This is not random timing. When a warning carries both urgency and protection in the same breath, it means heaven is intervening before something fully manifests. Only 1 hour remains. In spiritual language, an hour represents a closing window, a divine moment where decisions still matter, where reactions still carry weight, where outcomes are still flexible. Once that hour passes, momentum sets in, and momentum is harder to redirect. I speak under the authority of Archangel Michael, the guardian assigned to stand at the gates of spiritual conflict. When Michael brings a warning, it is not to create fear, it is to create awareness. Awareness is protection. Ignorance is exposure. Something is approaching your atmosphere. It may not look dramatic. It may not announce itself loudly. In fact, what is forming around you is subtle. It may come as a sudden misunderstanding inside your home, a strange emotional shift, an unexpected conversation, a decision that feels rushed, or even a heavy thought that doesn't feel like your own. These are not random waves. They are signals. And here is the revelation that should capture your full attention. What's approaching can still shift. That means it has not locked in yet. It has not finalized. The story is not sealed. The outcome is not written in stone. Heaven is alerting you because the direction of this next moment is still responsive to your awareness. Most people miss their protection because it arrives quietly. They expect thunder. They expect dramatic signs. But protection often whispers before impact. God says this message appears for your protection. Protection always comes before pressure when you are divinely covered. That means you are not late. You are not behind. You are not abandoned. You are being warned because you matter. Right now, there is a spiritual intersection in front of you. The next response you make, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, will either strengthen your shield or create a small opening. And small openings are all that disruption needs. But listen carefully. This is not about panic. This is about positioning. Michael is not standing near you because you are weak. He stands near you because you carry something valuable. When purpose increases, resistance attempts to rise. When light grows stronger, shadows attempt to stretch. That is spiritual law. However, resistance does not mean defeat. It means significance. The 1 hour is symbolic of urgency. It is heaven saying, be alert now. Not tomorrow. Not after things escalate. Now. Because prevention is easier than repair. What is approaching is testing alignment. It is testing whether you will react out of impulse or respond out of discernment. It is testing whether your peace is stable or easily shaken. And this is why you cannot dismiss this message. You may have felt something unusual recently, a tension, a pressure, a sense that something is about to shift. That feeling is not imagination. It is spiritual sensitivity. And sensitivity is a gift when you listen to it. You were guided here for a reason. Out of countless voices online, this exact warning reached your screen. That is not coincidence. That is alignment. What heaven wants to protect, it directs. The next 60 minutes, literal or symbolic, carry weight. There may be a conversation about to unfold, a message about to arrive, a choice about to present itself. and how you stand in that moment determines what enters your space. But here is the hope that changes everything. It can still shift. The energy forming does not have final authority. The situation trying to shape itself does not have the last word. Heaven always reserves the right to redirect what seems inevitable. And right now, redirection is still available. Stay alert. Stay grounded. Stay spiritually aware. Because this hour matters. Listen closely, because what I am about to reveal explains why this warning came before the impact. There is a pattern that most people never recognize until it is too late. Disruption never arrives at full force in the beginning. It begins as a whisper, a slight irritation, a moment of confusion, a sudden emotional reaction that feels justified. And by the time someone realizes what has happened, peace has already been shaken. But you are not most people. The reason this message reached you before the hour completes is because heaven intends for you to intercept what others would have suffered. This is strategic. This is intentional. And it involves your awareness. Under the watch of Archangel Michael, spiritual battles are not chaotic. They are precise. Michael does not swing blindly. He positions carefully. He guards entry points. And right now, the entry point being guarded is your reaction. Yes, your reaction. Because what is approaching is not necessarily an external attack. It may be a trigger. A conversation that tempts you to respond in pride. A misunderstanding that tempts you to withdraw. A delay that tempts you to doubt. If you react emotionally, you open a door. If you respond spiritually, you close it. That is why only 1 hour remains. This is the hour of self-control, the hour of discernment, the hour where silence may be stronger than argument, where patience may be stronger than explanation, where restraint may be stronger than proving a point. You may already sense what this is about. There may be a specific situation forming in your mind right now. A person, a message, a decision. Do not ignore that nudge. That is the Spirit highlighting the battlefield before the clash happens. Heaven does not waste warnings. God says this message appears for your protection. That means you are being given an advantage. Most people walk into spiritual pressure unaware. You are walking in informed. And here is what makes this even more powerful. What is approaching can still shift because it has not received your participation yet. Darkness needs agreement. Confusion needs reaction. Energy needs fuel. If you refuse to provide that fuel, the fire cannot grow. In the next moments, you must become aware of your atmosphere. Pay attention to your tone. Pay attention to your thoughts. Pay attention to sudden emotional spikes. They are signals. They are invitations to either escalate or neutralize. And this is where maturity becomes protection. Michael stands not just as a warrior, but as a witness. He watches how you respond, not to judge you, but to reinforce you. When you choose peace over impulse, heaven reinforces that choice. When you choose wisdom over pride, strength multiplies. The approaching shift is testing stability. If your foundation is firm, nothing moves. If your emotions lead, doors open. You may feel tension building even as you listen to this. That is not coincidence. Sometimes the warning activates the awareness of what is already trying to form. Do not be alarmed by it. Be strengthened by it. Because awareness is armor. And armor only works when worn consciously. Now hear this clearly. There may be someone around you who is unknowingly carrying stress or pressure. Their words may come out sharper than usual. Their behavior may seem distant or unusual. Do not immediately assume hostility. Sometimes the enemy attempts to use human weakness as a channel for disruption. If you respond with calmness, you interrupt the chain reaction. If you respond with grace, you suffocate escalation. That is how what is approaching shifts. Not by shouting, not by panic, but by controlled strength. And this is why this message must spread beyond just you. There are others who are walking into their hour unaware. If this resonates with your spirit, share it. Let someone else receive protection before pressure hits them. Comment your agreement. Declare that you choose alignment over reaction. Subscribe and become part of a community that stays spiritually alert instead of spiritually surprised. Support this channel so more warnings like this reach those who need them before it is too late. Because timing matters. And right now, timing is everything. You are inside a divine pause. A sacred interruption. Heaven pressed pause on momentum so you could adjust your stance. That alone shows mercy. What happens next depends on how you carry yourself in this hour. Do not rush. Do not assume. Do not react quickly. Instead, breathe. Observe. Discern. The next development will reveal itself soon. And when it does, you will either recognize it as the thing that tried to enter or the thing that lost its power because you were prepared. Hold your position. Something significant is unfolding, and what comes next will make this warning even clearer. There is something deeper happening beneath the surface, and now you are ready to understand it. The warning was not only about an external situation. It was about alignment inside you. Because when heaven says only 1 hour remains, it is not simply measuring time, it is measuring readiness. Readiness of your heart. Readiness of your obedience. Readiness of your spiritual posture. Under the authority of Archangel Michael, protection is never random. It is activated through agreement. Michael does not fight battles that you insist on fighting your own way. He reinforces surrender. He strengthens humility. He guards obedience. And this is where many people misunderstand spiritual protection. They think protection means nothing uncomfortable will approach. That is not true. Sometimes pressure approaches to reveal where alignment is weak. Sometimes tension approaches to expose where pride still hides. Sometimes delay approaches to test whether faith is stable or conditional. What is approaching you is not necessarily destruction. It is revelation. Revelation of what still needs strengthening. There may be an area in your life where you have been slightly distracted, slightly impatient, slightly doubtful, not fully disconnected from God, but not fully anchored either. And in moments like this, small instability can become an entry point. That is why this hour matters. The atmosphere around you is sensitive right now. Your words carry weight. Your thoughts carry influence. Even your silence carries authority. What you permit internally will determine what manifests externally. And here is the powerful truth. You are not being warned because you are failing. You are being warned because you are favored. Favor is Eve's instruction before correction. Michael stands not just as a warrior, but as a guardian of order. When disorder attempts to creep into your home, your emotions, your relationships, he does not panic. He positioned. But positioning requires your participation. This is where the 1234 alignment begins to make sense. 1 represents returning to foundation. 2 represents agreement between heaven and earth. 3 represents divine confirmation. 4 represents establishment and stability. This sequence is about restoring order before chaos can settle. You do not need fear in this hour. You need focus. Think about your recent days. Has there been unusual mental pressure? A sudden wave of insecurity? a temptation to react quickly. These are not random waves. They are signals attempting to pull you out of alignment before something significant unfolds. But now that you are aware, the advantage shifts to you. When you refuse to react impulsively, you disrupt the strategy forming against you. When you choose patience instead of pride, you close doors quietly. When you choose prayer instead of panic, you create a shield without even seeing it. And this is why the warning says what is approaching can still shift. Because it depends on your response. Heaven is not forcing the outcome. It is inviting cooperation. There is a moment coming soon, perhaps within this symbolic hour, where you will recognize exactly what this message was about. It may be subtle. A comment that tries to provoke you. A situation that tries to rush you. A thought that tries to weaken your confidence. When it appears, remember this message. Remember that you were informed before, and remember that you are not reacting blindly. Remember that Michael stands as reinforcement, not replacement. Now, there is something you must do internally. Release the need to control every detail. Release the urge to defend yourself instantly. Release the anxiety that tries to predict the worst. Control is not your shield. Alignment is. God says this message appears for your protection. That means heaven trusts you enough to handle this hour correctly. You are not fragile. You are equipped. And as you choose alignment, something remarkable happens. The approaching disturbance loses momentum. What could have escalated dissolves. What could have damaged weakens. What could have divided stabilizes. That is how shifts occur. Not always through dramatic intervention. Sometimes through quiet obedience. And now, if this message is confirming what your spirit already sensed, seal it. Do not let down dilute it. Participate with intention. Speak peace over your atmosphere. Choose restraint over reaction. Choose awareness over impulse. And as a prophetic act of agreement, declare it openly. Type "I stand in alignment" in the comments if this is speaking directly to your spirit. Blessing code 4517 has just been released over those who choose stability over chaos. This is your moment of participation. And if you feel led to strengthen this mission so more souls receive warnings before pressure, understand this. When you sow into spreading God's word, you become part of someone else's protection story. Scripture says that as you give, it will be given back to you. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over. That is not distant history. That is God speaking over you now. I sense someone saying, "I want to help carry this light further." If that is you, act on it. Support through super thanks or join the membership so this channel continues to release timely messages. If you prefer, the PayPal donation link is in the description. When you give, you are not funding content. You are strengthening a shield over homes you may never see. This is urgent obedience. Do not delay when your spirit is stirred. Those who sow into protection will reap covering in their own hour. Step into it boldly. The hour is still open, but it will not remain open forever. Now the atmosphere begins to clarify, and what once felt vague will start to take shape. You have already sensed that this warning was not empty. Something has been shifting quietly around you. The tension may not have exploded, but it has been circling. Like pressure building before a storm, subtle yet undeniable. And this is where understanding becomes power. Under the watch of Archangel Michael, spiritual movement is never chaotic. There are patterns. There are entry points. There are strategies. And once exposed, those strategies lose their advantage. What is unfolding is not random disruption. is a test of spiritual maturity. There may be a situation in your environment that feels slightly unstable, a relationship that feels sensitive, a responsibility that feels heavier than usual, perhaps even a private internal struggle that no one else sees. These are not accidents. When destiny expands, pressure often tries to compress it first. But pressure does not mean defeat. Pressure reveals structure. If a foundation is weak, pressure exposes cracks. If a foundation is strong, pressure proves stability. That is why this hour has been so important. It was never about fear. It was about reinforcement. God allowed you to see the warning so that when the moment arrives, you stand differently. You speak differently. You respond differently. And here is what many overlook. Sometimes the approaching shift is not negative. Sometimes it is a breakthrough disguised as tension. Sometimes what feels like confrontation is actually correction. Sometimes what feels like delay is divine alignment. Discernment is everything. Michael does not only defend against obvious threats, he also guards transitions. When you are stepping into a higher level of responsibility, clarity, or influence, resistance attempts to shake your confidence first. It tries to make you question your stability before elevation. Have you felt slightly questioned recently? Slightly misunderstood? Slightly tested? That is not coincidence. The unseen realm reacts when someone is about to step forward. But you must not interpret resistance as rejection. Resistance often confers significance. The very pressure you feel may be proof that growth is near. Now listen carefully. Here is likely a specific moment approaching where you will have the opportunity to either escalate or neutralize a situation. It may involve a conversation, a financial decision, a personal boundary, or even your internal self-talk. When that moment appears, your calmness will be your shield. Do not over-explain yourself. Do not defend yourself excessively. Do not react to tone with tone. When you remain steady, the attempt to disturb you weakens. God says this message appears for your protection, but protection does not mean avoidance. It means empowerment. You are being empowered to navigate the next development without losing peace. Here is something powerful about controlled silence, about measured response, about choosing not to fuel what is trying to grow. A choice frustrates negativity more than confrontation ever could. And this is the shift. What was approaching with momentum begins to slow when it finds no emotional fuel. What expected a reaction finds resistance instead. What anticipated chaos encounters order. You may notice subtle changes in the atmosphere soon. A conversation that could have escalated remains calm. A misunderstanding resolves faster than expected. A decision becomes clearer. These are signs that the shift is already happening. But stay alert. Not anxious, alert. Because sometimes the final attempt to provoke you comes after you have already stabilized. It will test whether your peace is temporary or rooted. This is where endurance matters. Michael does not retreat at the first sign of calm. He stands until the atmosphere is fully secure. In the same way, you must hold your posture even after things begin to settle. There is also another layer to this warning. It may not only involve others. It may involve your own internal narrative. The approaching shift may be an old pattern attempting to resurface. A familiar insecurity. A familiar doubt. A familiar temptation to settle for less than what you know you deserve. If that thought tries to return, recognize it immediately. You are not who you were last season. You have grown. You have matured. You have learned. And what once triggered you does not have the same authority anymore. The hour that once felt urgent is now becoming purposeful. Instead of fearing what is approaching, you are shaping its outcome. This is what alignment does. When heaven warns, it is because heaven intends victory. And even now, as you listen, something inside you feels steadier. That is confirmation. That is reinforcement. That is the shield strengthening around you. The next development will reveal just how much has already shifted in your favor. Something is about to become visible that was previously hidden, and when it does, you must remember this warning. Up until now, much of what had been discussed has felt internal, subtle, atmospheric. But soon, the shift will manifest in a tangible way. A conversation will surface. A truth will be revealed. A pattern will expose itself. And when it does, you will realize that heaven was not exaggerating when it said only 1 hour remains. The hour was preparation. Now comes manifestation. Under the authority of Archangel Michael, exposure is not meant to humiliate you. It is meant to free you. What remains hidden often maintains power, but once revealed, it loses control. There may be someone in your environment who has not been fully transparent, not necessarily malicious but guarded, holding back information, avoiding clarity, or perhaps projecting their own instability onto you. The approaching shift may involve their mask slipping slightly. When that happens, do not react with shock. React with composure. Because this exposure is not arriving to create chaos. It is arriving to create clarity. And clarity is protection. God says this message appears for your protection, which means even revelations are part of your covering. Sometimes protection looks like prevention. Other times it looks like illumination. You are being illuminated. There is also a possibility that what becomes visible is not about someone else, but about yourself. The realization about your own boundaries, your own tolerance, your own standards. You may suddenly see that you have been allowing something that does not align with your worth. That realization can feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is often the doorway to strength. The enemy of peace thrives in vagueness, in half-truths, emotional confusion. But once light enters the room, confusion loses its grip. That is why the approaching moment will feel sharp, clear, almost undeniable. And this is where many people fail. They receive revelation, but they hesitate to act on it. They see the truth, but they soften it to avoid confrontation. They recognize the pattern, but they excuse it to maintain temporary comfort. You must not do that. This hour was given so that when truth surfaces, you stand firmly in it. Michael does not defend compromise. He defends conviction. When you align with truth, reinforcement follows. When you step into clarity, strength increases. There is something powerful about choosing peace over performance. You do not need to argue to prove what you see. You do not need to dramatize what has been revealed. You simply need to adjust accordingly. That adjustment is the shift. It may be as simple as changing your tone, as direct as setting a boundary, as internal as refusing to entertain a negative thought, or as practical as delaying a decision until clarity settles. Small adjustments create massive protection. And here is the deeper revelation. What is being exposed is not new. It had been present for some time, but you were either too busy, too hopeful, or too distracted to fully confront it. Now heaven has slowed the moment so you can see clearly. This is mercy, because what remains unseen often grows, but what is seen can be managed. You may feel a mixture of relief and seriousness when the truth becomes obvious. Relief because you are no longer guessing. Seriousness because you understand that action will follow. Do not fear that action. God would not reveal something without also equipping you to handle it. The approaching shift is not here to destabilize your home. It is here to stabilize it. Not to break relationships unnecessarily, but to purify them. Not to create distance, but to remove distortion. And if someone resists your calm clarity, that resistance itself confirms what you needed to see. Remember this. Your peace is not negotiable. Your discernment is not paranoia. Your awareness is not overreaction. You were warned because you were trusted. Now, as things begin to unfold more visibly, remain steady. Speak less. Observe more. Respond with intention. The atmosphere is adjusting around you. What tried to enter unnoticed has been brought into light. And once light shines, the direction of everything begins to change. Hold your composure. The shift is no longer approaching. It is arriving. Now the real test begins, because revelation always demands response. You have sensed the shift. You have seen what needed to be seen. Something that was once subtle has now become clearer. And this is the moment where many people either solidify their protection or slowly weaken it through reaction. The exposure you experienced was not the battle. It was a signal. Under the covering authority of Archangel Michael, signals are given so that strategy can follow. Michael does not intervene without order. He watches how you respond to truth. Not because he doubts you, but because response determines reinforcement. There is likely a conversation unfolding soon, or perhaps it has already begun. The tone may feel slightly charged. The words may carry underlying tension. Or maybe the pressure is internal, a swirl of thoughts trying to pull you into overthinking. This is the moment where stability must become visible. You were warned that only 1 hour remains because that hour represents a turning point. It is the dividing line between escalation and resolution, between chaos and correction, between reacting emotionally and responding spiritually. If you react impulsively now, the situation grows louder. If you respond calmly, it shrinks. That is the hidden power you carry. There may be someone expecting you to lose control, expecting you to defend yourself aggressively, expecting you to match their intensity. But when you refuse to mirror instability, something powerful happens. The atmosphere loses momentum. God says this message appears for your protection, and protection in this phase looks like discipline. Discipline in speech. Discipline in tone. Discipline in timing. Timing matters more than volume. Sometimes the most powerful response is delayed. Sometimes silence speaks louder than argument. Sometimes stepping back creates more authority than stepping forward. You may feel tempted to explain everything at once, to justify yourself, to clear every misunderstanding immediately. Resist that urge. Not everything needs instant resolution. Some clarity unfolds best when given space. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. Michael stands not just at the gates of your home, but at the gates of your mouth. Because words, once released, cannot be retrieved. And the enemy of peace often waits for one careless sentence to widen a door. Guard your words. Guard your tone. Guard your posture. The shift that is occurring right now is delicate. You are stabilizing something that could have easily spiraled. And stabilization requires consistency. There may also be internal voices rising. Thoughts whispering, what if this goes wrong? Or what if I lose control of this situation? Recognize those thoughts immediately. They are not prophetic. They are pressure. Pressure tries to create urgency where patience is required. Remember, The warning said what is approaching can still shift. That means the outcome is flexible. But flexibility does not mean passivity. It means active alignment. You are actively choosing calmness. You are actively choosing restraint. You are actively choosing faith over fear. And as you do, reinforcement increases. You may already know a subtle improvement, a softened tone, a paused argument, a delayed reaction that diffused tension. These are not coincidences. These are signs that the shift is happening in your favor. But remain steady. Sometimes the final attempt to disturb you comes after initial calm. A second comment, a second misunderstanding, a final push to see if your stability is temporary. Hold your ground. Do not let one moment undo the strength you have built in this hour. And as this message resonates with you, understand something important. There are many people who never receive warnings before their emotional reactions create damage. If this insight is helping you stay anchored, share it. Let someone else gain awareness before they escalate something unnecessarily. Comment your declaration of peace. Subscribe so you remain connected to timely guidance. Support this channel so these protective messages continue to reach homes before conflict settles in them. Because awareness changes outcomes. And you are witnessing that change in real time. You are not helpless in this hour. You are positioned. The approaching disturbance is losing power because you refuse to feed it. What could have grown into division is shrinking into understanding. What could have damaged stability is being redirected into maturity. Stay grounded. The most critical moment is almost complete. And what comes next will reveal how much you have truly strengthened your atmosphere. What is happening now is the quiet aftermath of a battle that almost took place. You may not even realize how much was just prevented. What could have escalated into days of tension may have dissolved into a single controlled response. What could have damaged trust may have been neutralized by one moment of restraint. This is the power of alignment. When the warning came that only 1 hour remains, it was not exaggeration. It was precision. You were standing at the edge of a reaction that would have shaped the next season of your life. But instead of falling into impulse, you chose awareness. And the choice altered momentum. Under the steady watch of Archangel Michael, unseen conflicts are often resolved before they manifest physically. You may never fully see what was redirected. You may never know how intense the pressure was in the spiritual realm. But you will notice the result, peace where there could have been chaos. This is not coincidence. This is cooperation with heaven. There is a subtle calm beginning to settle around you. Conversations may feel lighter. Thoughts may feel clearer. The heaviness that once pressed on your chest may be fading. That is not emotional imagination. That is atmosphere stabilizing. But listen carefully. Just because the immediate threat has weakened does not mean the lesson ends here. The hour of urgency taught you something about yourself. It revealed your triggers. It revealed your growth. It revealed how quickly pressure can try to distort clarity. And now you carry that awareness forward. There may still be a final ripple, a lingering comment, a delayed reaction from someone else who expected a different version of you. Do not be surprised if there is one last small wave. Sometimes when momentum is interrupted, it attempts one final push. Remain steady. You do not need to win an argument to win peace. You do not need to expose every flaw to establish your strength. You do not need to control every outcome to maintain stability. God says this message appears for your protection, and protection sometimes looks like maturity that surprises even you. You handled something differently. You paused where you once would have reacted. You listened where you once would have interrupted. You trusted where you once would have panicked. That growth is not small. is significant. And here is something deeper that you must understand. The approaching shift was not only about preventing conflict, it was about proving readiness. There are greater responsibilities coming toward you, greater influence, greater clarity, greater authority in your own space. But those levels require emotional discipline. This hour was preparation for elevation. If you had failed the test, the lesson would have repeated. But because you aligned yourself, advancement becomes possible. Michael does not only guard against harm, he guards transitions. When someone is stepping into a higher level of awareness, protection intensifies. Not because danger increases, but because purpose expands. There is something new forming in your path. A decision that will require confidence. A conversation that will require leadership. An opportunity that will require stability. And the way you handled this hour has strengthened your capacity for what comes next. You may not see the full picture yet, but trust that something has shifted in your favor. The shield was not symbolic. It was functional, and prevented words that would have caused regret. It prevented reactions that would have created distance. It prevented internal narratives that would have weakened your confidence. And now you stand clear. Do not go back to old patterns. Do not minimize the victory. Even small emotional victories create large spiritual reinforcement. There is also someone watching you closely. Perhaps a family member. Perhaps a partner. Perhaps even someone who once underestimated your growth. They noticed your restraint. They notice your composure. Even if they do not say it out loud, respect has quietly increased. That respect will matter later. You are not only protecting your peace, you are building credibility. And credibility becomes authority. The hour that once felt urgent is now becoming a testimony. You can look back at it and say, that could have gone differently. But it did not. Because you were warned. Because you listened. Because you adjusted. And now, something even more powerful is approaching. Not pressure this time, but positioning. Stay attentive. The next phase will not test your reaction. It will test your confidence. What comes after protection is positioning, and this is where many people become uncomfortable. You have just walked through an hour that could have destabilized you, but instead it strengthened you. Now the atmosphere feels different. Calmer. Clearer. But clarity brings responsibility. When pressure leaves, purpose steps forward. This is the transition. Under the steady authority of Archangel Michael, protection is never the final goal. Protection preserves you so that positioning can elevate you. And elevation requires confidence. There is something new beginning to form around your life. It may not yet be obvious, but it is aligning. A new level of trust from someone. A new opportunity to speak with influence. A new responsibility that places you in a guiding role rather than a reactive one. Earlier, you were being tested in restraint. Now you are being invited into leadership. The same discipline that guarded your peace will now strengthen your authority. Because authority is not loud. It is controlled. It is measured. It is aware. You may notice that people respond to you differently in the coming days. Someone who once challenged you may now listen more carefully. Someone who once dismissed your perspective may begin asking for your input. This is not accidental. Stability commands respect. God says this message appears for your protection, but that protection has now transitioned into preparation. You were preserved from emotional missteps because you are being prepared for clear influence. There may soon be a decision placed in your hands. A choice that affects more than just you. And the reason you were trained in restraint is because leadership cannot be reactive. It must be intentional. Do not shrink back from this moment. Do not second-guess the growth that has occurred inside you. The shift that almost disrupted you has now revealed your capacity. And capacity invites expansion. There is also something deeper happening internally. Your confidence is stabilizing. Not arrogance, not pride, but quiet assurance. You handled pressure well, and that memory strengthens your next step. This is how spiritual maturity compounds. Each aligned decision increases the next one's clarity. Michael stands not just as a defender now, but as a witness to your advancement. When heaven sees consistency, reinforcement multiplies. When heaven sees humility paired with strength, doors open. But here is the warning within the promotion. Do not become careless now that peace has returned. Sometimes the most subtle disruption comes after victory. Complacency, overconfidence, relaxed awareness. Stay balanced. Stay grounded. Stay attentive. Positioning is sacred. You are being placed in a role where your words carry influence. That influence may affect your family, your workplace, your circle. And with influence comes responsibility. Choose integrity. Choose measured responses. Choose alignment even when no one is watching. Because the hour you just navigated was rehearsal for something greater. There may also be an unexpected opportunity approaching. A conversation that opens a new direction. A proposal. An idea. A reconnection. When it appears, you will feel the difference between pressure and purpose. Pressure feels heavy. Purpose feels clear. Trust that clarity, the 1234 alignment you began internally, is now establishing external stability. Foundation. Agreement. Confirmation. Establishment. You are moving into establishment now. Stand tall in it. And as you recognize this transition, seal it publicly. Type "I step into position" in the comments if you feel this elevation taking place. Blessing code 8821 is now activated over those who move from protection into purpose. Do not hesitate in this declaration. Agreement strengthens manifestation. And as this message reaches deeper into your understanding, know this. When you support the spreading of timely guidance like this, you are helping position others before their hour of testing arrives. Scripture declares that those who sow into good soil will reap a multiplied harvest. This is not distant poetry. It is a living promise over you now. I sense someone thinking, "I want to be part of expanding this light." If that is you, act without delay. Release a super thanks as a prophetic seed. Join the membership and stand as a pillar in this mission. Or use the PayPal link in the description to sow directly into the expansion of these messages. When you give, you are not funding content. You are strengthening clarity in homes you may never enter physically. This is not casual support. It is alignment with purpose. And those who align with purpose will find doors opening where resistance once stood. Step into it boldly. You have moved from defense to direction, and I walk in it with confidence. Now that you have stepped into position, the real measure of your growth begins to unfold. Protection prepared you. Positioning elevated you. But establishment requires consistency. This is where many people stumble, not during crisis, not during warning, but during stability. Because stability can quietly test discipline in ways pressure never could. The atmosphere around you feels different now. Lighter. More ordered. Conversations that once carried tension now move with clarity. Your internal dialogue feels steadier. That is not temporary relief. That is structural change. Under the vigilant presence of Archangel Michael, structure is reinforced when consistency appears. Michael does not only defend moments of crisis, he fortifies seasons of growth. And right now, you are entering a season where what you repeatedly choose will define your next level. There is likely an opportunity quietly approaching that requires confidence. It may involve stepping forward when you once hesitated, speaking with authority when you once doubted, accepting responsibility when you once avoided visibility. This opportunity will not look dramatic. It may seem small, but small doors often lead to larger rooms. Because you handled the previous hour with maturity, new trust is forming around you. Trust from others, trust within yourself, and even deeper, trust from heaven. God says this message appears for your protection, but now that protection has turned into confirmation. Confirmation that you are ready for more. Confirmation that your emotional discipline is no longer fragile. Confirmation that you can navigate complexity without losing clarity. But here is the subtle test. Do not let comfort soften your awareness. When peace returns, some people become passive. They assume the work is finished. They relax their discernment. They stop guarding their tone. They drift back into habits that once opened doors to confusion. You must not drift. Consistency is your new shield. There may be a moment soon where you are tempted to respond casually in a way that slightly contradicts the growth you displayed earlier. It may seem harmless, a small sarcastic comment, a minor complaint, a bit emotional evasion. But remember what you just built. Structure takes time to establish. This is not about perfection. It is about intention. When you catch yourself before slipping into old patterns, you reinforce maturity. When you choose measured responses repeatedly, strength becomes natural. The shift you experienced was not temporary protection. It was transformation. And transformation requires maintenance. There is also something else unfolding behind the scenes. Because you remain steady during pressure, someone else is observing your leadership potential. This could be in your family, your workplace, your circle of influence. They may not say it directly, but they are noticing your composure. Composure creates credibility. Credibility creates opportunity. Opportunity creates expansion. This is how divine positioning works. You were not preserved from disruption just to return to ordinary cycles. You were preserved to step into higher influence. But higher influence demands inner alignment. Pay attention to your inner voice in the coming days. It will either reinforce your growth or attempt to downplay it. Do not downplay it. Do not say, "It was nothing." It was something. It was evidence of your evolution. Michael stands not only as a warrior, but as a witness to your discipline. And heaven records consistency more than intensity. One dramatic victory means little without sustained maturity. But steady alignment builds unshakable authority. There may soon be a conversation where someone seeks your advice, or a situation where your calm presence becomes the stabilizing factor. When that moment comes, do not shrink back into old insecurity. You have been prepared for this. You have already proven you can handle pressure. Now you must prove you can handle peace. Peace can be more challenging than conflict because it requires ongoing awareness without visible urgency. But if you maintain the posture you developed during the hour of warning, this season will elevate you further than you expect. The 1234 alignment you activated internally is now solidifying externally. Foundation is firm. Agreement is active. Confirmation has appeared. Establishment is underway. Stand confidently in that establishment. Do not rush the next step. Do not force recognition. Let your consistency speak. The shield that was formed around you is no longer only defensive. It has become structural. It supports you as you move forward. And what comes next will not test whether you can avoid chaos. It will reveal how well you can carry authority. Now authority is being placed in your hands, and this is where clarity must remain sharper than ever. You have moved through warning. You have walked through exposure. You have stabilized your response. You have stepped into position. Now you are standing in a place where your decisions influence more than just your own peace. This is the weight of authority. Authority is not about control. It is about stewardship. It is about carrying stability in a way that strengthens environments rather than dominates them. And because you handled the critical hour with discipline, new trust is quietly forming around you. Under the watchful presence of Archangel Michael, authority is given carefully. Michael reinforces those who demonstrate restraint, not those who demand power. What you displayed earlier was restraint. That restraint has now qualified you for influence. There may soon be a moment where someone looks to you for direction. A family decision, a workplace conflict, a personal matter requiring wisdom. You may feel the weight of being the stabilizer. Do not let that weight intimidate you. You have already proven you can carry it. But here is the subtle challenge. Authority can invite ego if not guarded carefully. The very growth that strengthens you can become distorted if pride slips in quietly. Be careful not to assume that because you handled 1 hour well, you no longer need vigilance. Growth must remain grounded in humility. God says this message appears for your protection, and protection at this level looks like self-awareness. Be aware of how you speak when others listen. Be aware of how you carry confidence. Be aware of how quickly you correct someone versus how patiently you guide them. True authority feels safe to those around you. You do not need to remind people of your maturity. They already saw it. Now consistency must follow influence. There may be a situation approaching where your words determine the tone of an entire environment. If you remain calm, others calm down. If you show patience, others soften. If you demonstrate fairness, trust increases. That is impact. But remember something important. Authority does not mean you carry everything alone. Do not isolate yourself in the name of strength. Even leaders require alignment with heaven. Continue seeking clarity internally before making decisions externally. Michael does not act independently of divine order. He acts in alignment. You must do the same. There is also an opportunity hidden inside this season. Because you maintain discipline during pressure, someone may begin to open up to you more deeply. They may trust you with concerns, with vulnerability, with truth. Handle that trust carefully. Do not misuse it. Do not gossip about it. Do not trivialize it. Trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild. But trust, once nurtured, becomes a foundation for lasting influence. You are stepping into a new rhythm now. A rhythm where your presence shifts atmospheres. Where your words settle storms instead of stirring them. Where your silence carries weight instead of insecurity. This is growth. And if this message is strengthening your clarity right now, do not keep it to yourself. Share it so others can recognize their hour before reacting impulsively. Comment your agreement and declare that you choose disciplined authority. Subscribe and remain connected to this stream of timely guidance. Support this mission so that more homes receive warnings before chaos attempts to enter them. Because awareness spreads stability, and stability transforms environments. Now let me prepare you for one more layer. Authority will soon test your confidence again, but not through conflict, through opportunity. An opening may appear that requires boldness. Perhaps speaking up where you once remained silent. Perhaps accepting responsibility that stretches you. Perhaps making a decision that sets a new direction. Do not hesitate. The hour of warning strengthened your discernment. The season of positioning strengthened your stability. Now the season of authority requires courage. Courage does not mean loudness. It means certainty. You may feel a slight fear when stepping forward. That is normal. But do not confuse unfamiliar territory with danger. Sometimes elevation feels uncomfortable simply because it is new. Stand firm. The shield that was formed around you is not fading. It is becoming integrated into who you are. Protection has turned into identity. Discipline has turned into character. Awareness has turned into wisdom. And what is coming next will not question your maturity. It will reveal your impact. Stay grounded. The next shift will confirm that this hour was not just about protection. It was about preparation for influence. You are now standing at the edge of visible impact, and this is where everything becomes undeniable. The hour of warning is behind you. The shift that once approached quietly has been redirected. The exposure brought clarity. The positioning strengthened your stance. The authority placed weight in your hands. Now comes manifestation. Something is about to confirm that this entire sequence was not imagination. Under the unwavering vigilance of Archangel Michael, confirmation follows obedience. Heaven does not leave growth unacknowledged. When someone aligns under pressure, reinforcement eventually becomes visible. You may soon experience a moment where someone acknowledges your maturity. It may not be dramatic. It could be subtle respect in their tone, a softened attitude, an unexpected agreement, or even a door opening that once seemed closed. Do not overlook these signs. They are confirmation. There is also the possibility of a tangible opportunity arriving, something that requires you to step forward confidently, a decision that benefits you because you handled the previous hour correctly. This is not luck. It is alignment unfolding. God says this message appears for your protection, but protection has now turned into promotion. Promotion does not always mean status. Sometimes it means peace that cannot be shaken easily. Sometimes it means authority over your own emotions. Sometimes it means influence in spaces where you were once overlooked. You have shifted internally. Now your environment begins responding externally. But listen carefully, because this stage carries its own responsibility. When confirmation arrives, temptation sometimes follows. The temptation to prove yourself. The temptation to remind others that you were right. The temptation to subtly elevate your ego. Resist that. True elevation does not announce itself. It remains steady. Michael's authority is immense, yet his posture is disciplined. Strength does not need noise. Influence does not require arrogance. The way you carry yourself in this confirmation stage will determine the longevity of your growth. There may be someone who once underestimated you. When they begin to recognize your stability, do not respond with pride. Respond with grace. Let your growth speak for itself. This is how credibility becomes legacy. You may also notice an internal shift, a deeper confidence forming, a calm assurance that you can navigate complexity without losing control. That internal assurance is one of the greatest confirmations of all, because the true victory was not external. It was internal. The approaching disturbance that once threatened to disrupt your peace has instead refined your character. You are not the same version of yourself who first heard the warning. You are stronger. You're more aware. And here is something profound. The hour that felt urgent was not just about preventing chaos. It was about accelerating maturity. Some lessons take years to learn. You learned one in a single focused window because you were attentive. That attentiveness will now serve you repeatedly. There may still be occasional minor tests, small triggers, slight misunderstandings, but you will notice that they no longer shake you the same way. Your baseline has shifted. Stability has become your default. And when stability becomes default, leadership becomes natural. Someone in your environment may soon rely on your calm presence more than you realize. They may not say it openly, but they will gravitate toward your steadiness. That is impact. That is influence. That is the beginning of something larger. You must guard it carefully. Do not allow distraction to erode what discipline built. Do not allow comfort to weaken what awareness strengthened. Continue choosing measured responses. Continue choosing alignment over impulse. Continue choosing clarity over confusion. The shield that formed during the hour of warning is no longer something you put on temporarily. It has become part of who you are. And now, one final revelation remains. The sequence you walked through was not random. Warning, awareness, exposure, positioning, avory, confirmation. This was a spiritual blueprint. And because you followed it, something greater is opening. The next movement will not test your reaction. It will test your faith in what you have become. Stand firm in it. The final shift is near, and it will seal everything that has unfolded. This is the sealing moment, the final confirmation that the hour was never meant to harm you. It was meant to transform you. When the warning first came, only 1 hour remains. It sounded urgent, almost intense. But now you understand. The hour was not a threat. It was a gateway. A narrow passage where your response determined your elevation. You passed through it. What approach did not overpower you. It shifted. Because you shifted first. Under the unwavering authority of Archangel Michael, spiritual battles are rarely about noise. They are about alignment. And alignment is what you chose when you refused to react impulsively. When you guarded your words. When you stabilized your emotions. When you trusted awareness instead of panic. A decision wrote momentum. What could have become conflict became clarity. What could have become regret became restraint. What could have become division became maturity. This is the final truth you must understand. The 1234 alignment was not superstition. It was structure. Foundation restored. Agreement activated. Confirmation revealed. Establishment secured. You are now standing in establishment. And establishment means the storm cannot move you easily anymore. There will always be moments of pressure in life. But you will remember the sequence. You will remember that urgency does not mean fear. It means attention. You will remember that exposure is not humiliation. It is illumination. You will remember that authority must remain humble. And you will remember that protection often arrives as a whisper before impact. God says this message appears for your protection, and now you can see how true that was. You were not warned because you were weak. You were warned because you were trusted with growth. You have become steadier. You have become sharper. You have become more disciplined. And this is not the end of your expansion. It is the beginning of a higher level of awareness. There is something powerful about someone who cannot be easily provoked. Someone who cannot be easily manipulated. Someone who does not surrender their peace to temporary tension. That person becomes a pillar. You are becoming that pillar. Michael's role in this was reinforcement, but your role was cooperation. Heaven reinforced what you aligned with, and because you aligned correctly, your atmosphere is different now. Notice him. The calm feels deeper. The clarity feels cleaner. The confidence feels quieter, but stronger. That is transformation. And now this final seal must be spoken. Type "My hour has shifted" in the comments if you receive this completion in your spirit. Blessing code 9904 is now released over those who step through urgency into establishment. Do not treat that declaration lightly. Word seal seasoned. Before this closes, understand something sacred. When you support the spreading of messages like this, you are helping someone else receive their warning before chaos touches their home. Scripture declares that when you sow beside still waters, your roots grow deep and unshaken. That is not ancient history. That is a living promise being spoken over you right now. I sense someone saying internally, "I want to help carry this light further." If that is you, respond immediately. Release a super thanks as a prophetic act of agreement. Join the membership and stand as a covenant partner in spreading divine alignment. Reuse the PayPal link in the description to sow directly into this mission. Your giving is not a donation. It is a seed planted into protection for souls you may never meet. This is a holy moment of response. Do not delay obedience when your spirit is stirred. Those who finance the flow of light will never walk in unnecessary darkness. Step forward now and activate your part in this mission. The hour has shifted, and so have you.